Hello everybody, this is Christian Pokemon Champion here with another video. Can you beat Pokemon Platinum as a pacifist? And I'm not talking about using indirect attacking moves like Spikes and Toxic. I mean, is it possible to win without ever dealing any kind of damage to my opponent?
Also, I can't find my mask because I just moved, so enjoy the fake mask.
Now before I get into the rules, I wanted to give a couple of shoutouts. I'm not the first to try this challenge out, so I wanted to give credit where credit was due. Arangelo was crazy enough to try this challenge out before anyone else. So if you're interested in seeing his video, link will be in the description below. Aaron, you crazy son of a bitch. Also, HBT has done a pacifist challenge too in Gen 2, so his link will be down below as well. Now here are the rules so that I can better clarify myself. I'll be attempting to win this game using only moves that don't deal damage. Moves like Leer, Withdraw, and the like are as a result okay, but any move that directly or indirectly deals damage is out of here. Examples will be Tackle and Sandstorm respectively. All this means is that the only way I can win this, in order to retain my pacifist status, is to wait until my opponent runs out of PP in all of their moves, and then subsequently fate themselves a struggle. But that'll be a lot of damage on me.
That's a lot of damage!
So I'll have to concoct some strategies to win before they take me out. Items are not allowed during battle. This will actually include the use of Pokeballs. I'm of course able to catch Pokemon for use of HM Martyrs, but I can't spend turns on end just chucking Pokeballs to my opponent until I beat them. This will make the challenge slightly easier, and I don't want that. But held items are allowed. However, if it deals damage like Rocky Helmet, I ain't going near it. Lastly, abilities must follow the logic of held items, meaning Flame Body and Poison Point are hard no's for me. As for the Pokemon I'll be using for this endeavor, normally I would change the starter for something more useful, but I decided to opt out of this so as to prove that this challenge is fully legal. To prove that anybody with hundreds of hours of time on their hands can do it. I'm not joking about the hundreds of hours, by the way. I don't necessarily plan on keeping the same 6 Pokemon throughout the entire challenge either. There are problems that I'll have to deal with like Poison, Hail, and the like that some Pokemon are more apt for, but then they might become less capable later on. Now, I have a dream that you'll consider signing the petition to end all past, present, future, fictional, and non-fictional wars by liking this video. And to further your peaceful protesting, subscribe to this channel. This will really stick it to the man. Now let's begin! As per usual, I named myself Job Jr. and named my rival Elihu. As I mentioned earlier, I will not be changing my starter. I will instead be choosing Turtwig for a very important reason. Turtwig immediately knows to move Withdraw, which increases my physical defense by 1 stage. I'll elaborate soon. Luckily for the first rival match, I don't actually have to fight in order to continue the story since I can just let Elihu beat me and move forward. Once you get past the catching tutorial, we are given a few Pokeballs. So now I gotta explain why I believe this challenge is possible in this game, and debatably in other games too. Early in Gen 4, you can obtain Shinx, which will either have the ability Rivalry or Intimidate. It is in the latter ability where I will take full advantage. Here I look for 5 total Shinxes that have Intimidate. Pew, 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 pew. With this dream team, I can go up against the very first trainer of this route. Here I will switch Turtwig, which I forgot to give a nickname. I'll give him one later. Out for one of the Shinxes, whose ability initiates to lower my opponent's physical stat. Thankfully, the beginning of this game is almost entirely consisted of physical attacks like Scratch and Tackle. Lastly, I switch back into Turtwig to spam Withdraw, and bam! Eventually my opponent loses all their PP. PP, and inevitably resorts to using Struggle, which this gen started the trend to have Struggle take recoil of 1/4 of your health. This will mean that they only have 4, sometimes 5, more turns after this. Now, this Intimidate strat will not necessarily be my only strat for this challenge, but it'll be a very prominent one for the beginning stages. Once I finally bypass all the trainers here, I run into a problem with the rival battle since he has 2 Pokemon now, but some training fixes this issue. Unfortunately, as is normal, the more Pokemon I have to deal with, the more damage I'll have to sustain, so you know the first gym will be difficult. Now in the gym, and I just realized a big issue. I decided to look at Rorik's team and found that he has the moves Stealth Rock, Leer, and Screech. I'm honestly mostly scared of the Stealth Rock. Why do you have such a competitive move on the first gym leader? This will mean I'll have to stay in as long as possible, otherwise I'll be taking damage from Stealth Rock every time I switch out. But because of Leer and Screech, his Pokemon will destroy mine while I'm waiting for the dude to feint himself. Because of all this, I was forced to grind. A lot. I soon learned that it's best to train via losing to the gym because his Pokemon have less PP than the ones in the wild. The irony is that me fighting Roark over and over again gives me the exact EVs I'll be needing to inevitably beat him, since we'll be given a ton of defense EVs for his physical attacks. We gon' be thick! However, we are limited in how many EVs we can earn. Training in only defense EVs might become a crutch later on when we have to fight against special attackers, but for the time being, this will have to work. Now let's just skip to the attempt where we win. Up first is this Geodude. I would normally switch out to all 5 of my Luxios, but because of his Stealth Rock, decreasing his attack didn't seem to be worth the added damage. Switching out to only 1 Luxio ultimately brings down their physical attack by 2 stages anyway. I then just spam the moves until they feint themselves since I have to stay in. By the way, it is really unfair that he can use healing items. Next was Onyx. This time I switched out 2 times for the Intimidates and then proceeded to pray that my Pokemon would survive. Now that he is fainted, Cranidos is finally up. Initially I was worried that Cranidos' ability, Mold Breaker, might prevent Intimidate from working, but it turned out it didn't affect it, so no worries here. Note however that he has the move Pursuit, so switching has 2 problems in this battle. He quickly bulldozes through 3 of my Pokemon, but at least his attack stat is being lowered in the process. By the time we got to the 4th Luxio, Kratos' attacks became pretty sluggish.
Oh yeah. It's all coming together.
I switched to Grotto to beef up my defense with Withdraw. Now that he lost his PP in his attacks, I switched out to Luxio. But again, because his last move is Leer, Struggle will be strengthened indefinitely. Nonetheless, I stayed until he used Struggle for the first time, and then switched to Grotto to eliminate the Leers on Luxio. Grotto tanked 2 hits prior to fainting. Now it is just my last Pokemon that is left. And Cranidos finally faints after a couple more struggles. I'll be honest, I didn't expect to win this round. I was just training at this point of the challenge, so I guess I got lucky here. This was done on my 97th attempt. By the way, sorry for being so descriptive. There's just a ton of things happening in each battle. We have finally beat the first gym, and we are at about 75 hours and 19 minutes. I've done full, difficult challenges in less time. Well, I guess we gotta continue. Now that I've finally made some progress, it is important to note that this is the kind of challenge where you should obtain any and all items that may provide even a little support. In Floroma Town, there are some orange berries you can pick. You can always farm these and citrus berries later on to increase your chances of winning. Poison sucks! I always like to mention the Commander Mars battle here since she's historically a tough opponent. But this time, while Zubat may poison you, which I quickly learned earlier that poison will be a tough issue to bypass, I do have Flash on Pacifist, who generally has the best stats of the Luxios, and ironically the best name too, so Zubat's poison isn't too much to handle. Now before I enter Eterna City and leaving Eternal Forest, I do an in-game save. The reason why is that I wanted to check whether or not my current team could beat Gardenia. If I'm not yet strong enough, I'll just restart and train in the forest. Suffice to say, I didn't do too well. So I guess I'll be training in the forest for a couple hours until I'm strong enough to beat her. Now that I have fully evolved my entire team and got Torterra to learn Synthesis, a move that'll be epic to have in this run, I'm confident I can now beat Gardenia. This much training might be overkill, but I'm preparing for the next gym as well. Man, time flies by quickly. Despite adding 37 total levels to my team, I was still having difficulty winning. But here's how I did eventually win. I used Flash on Turtwig to decrease the number of hits my Pokemon would have to sustain. Then I switched out to a different Luxio to 1, of course, initiate the Intimidate, and 2, spam charges to decrease the damage output from their grass knots. Once I resorted to struggling, I switched back and forth between the Luxrays and finally to my starter to limit damage. Next up is Cherum. Normally Gardenia's strategy thus far would be to have Turtwig use Sunny Day to start up Cherum's ability, which would then strengthen them. But since Sunny Day has a 0% chance of staying up by the time we get to Cherum, there's no worries thankfully. Unfortunately, Cherum has a few things that make this battle especially difficult despite this plus. They have the moves Leech Seed, Grass Knot, Safeguard, and Magical Leaf. Leech Seed doesn't affect Torterra, but Flash doesn't affect Magical Leaf. In spite of this, I still use Flash to decrease the chance of Grass Knot hitting. Other than that, I just waited out with Torterra using Withdraw and Synthesis until they're out. Last up is Roserade. With their decent special attack, that and the fact that there's no way to EV train for special defense at this point in the game. In fact, this entire generation was especially terrible in special defense EV training. But with perseverance, we won. I swear, I'm gonna have a heart attack after this challenge is over. This was done in my 16th attempt. Not a lot of attempts, but a large number of levels were necessary to accomplish this. Afterwards, I had a small stint of difficulty with the commander here with the Skuntank, mainly due to their ability to poison my team. Poison will most definitely become something I have to counter in some way. Spoiler, I chose Blissey because it learns from Cycle. Now let's give Torterra an official name. Gandhi. There we go. Oh, hey, Joop Jr. Well, will you accept this Pokemon egg? No. Oh, you don't have to feel obligated. It's hard filling the pages of the Pokédex, isn't it? I only want to lend you a hand, that's all. Okay, bye. Oh, wait, don't leave without this Pokemon egg. Please, I want you to have it. Are you trying to mess with me? Along the way to the next gym, I had a little freak out. This Nosepass decided to make it impossible for me to switch out. I'm presuming they used block or something like that? I don't know, wasn't really paying attention at this point. Since I was only able to use the one Pokemon here, I had to outlast them, to the point where I only had a few PP left just before I was forced to use Struggle. Thankfully, they fainted with their own Struggle prior to this even happening. But this was to the wire, guys. Phew! Please let me be able to win this challenge. Skipping all the trainers in the gym, we're at Fountina. For Duskull, because they have Will-O-Wisp, I find it more prudent to spam Flash to avoid being burnt. Any status move that may lower my HP with every turn is a bear. So if I were ever to get burned, despite the Flashes, I'm better off just restarting. I defeated them, and next up is Mismagius. Unfortunately, Flash isn't enough since they have Magical Leaf. Does everybody have non-missing moves? I also have to reserve Gandhi's Withdraws for their Hunter since they have physical attacks. Moreover, Intimidate isn't going to be much for Mismagius, being a special attacker and all. So hopefully I can withstand their onslaught of attacks. After a bit of going back and forth, I did thankfully get them to faint. Notwithstanding, at this point I only had 2 Luxrays in low health and Torterra left, and I already had to use a couple Syntheses for Torterra. I also thought this was yet another failed attempt. I even stopped the recording to have some barbecue. However, I felt that maybe I shouldn't quite give up yet. Now for Haunter, I stalled for a bit, at least until Haunter put Gandhi to sleep, at which point I started switching between Pokemon again. This helps a lot because Haunter's only other attacks are Sucker Punch and Confuse Ray, which neither are of any use if I'm switching out. Hypnosis doesn't even provide any interaction. So despite my assumptions, I actually won this match. Don't get me wrong though, it wasn't easy. This This was on my 128th attempt, so it wasn't fun. Anyway, I made an important decision while traversing to Slacian Town. I do have an idea of what kind of team I believe will be best to accomplish this challenge, and I'm sure a lot of you guys came up with a relatively similar thought to me. That being the ability Pressure, which will make the opponent use their PP twice as much as usual. I have a Pokemon later on in mind that has this ability, but I wanted to have a second one so that I could switch back and forth with this Pokemon in mind. My pool of candidates is kinda low, but I eventually decided that Dusclops would be the best option without being especially difficult to obtain. I named them Rest in Peace. I think you get the idea here. Along the way to the 4th gym, something very bad happened. This double battle here. Let me try to explain just how bad this battle was. The dude below has a Gligar with Feint Attack and the ability Hypercut, so Flash and Intimidate are useless. Moreover, his Weasel has Pursuit, so by the time I get through Gligar, I will have to deal with problems in switching between Pokemon. Weasel also has Swift, which again never misses. And the woman above has a Roselia with the move Toxic Spikes, a move that never misses and can badly poison my entire team. Both are incredibly difficult. Thankfully, however, Rest in Peace can learn Taunt and Disable, so at least I can stop Roselia from using Toxic Spikes, and thereafter barely take down the other two Pokemon. And for the dude, I just needed to be patient and observant in order to make the right move at the right times. Now, I wouldn't normally mention something like this. I often come across tough battles of this caliber on the regular, but this one was especially offsetting because it took me almost 2 hours to outsmart these cheaters. But I'm alright. I'm alright. By the way, I caught the Chansey and named them Teresa for obvious reasons to help me out here. Anyway, prior to fighting the 4th gym, I take the time to gamble in order to get the TM for Double Team. I do plan on getting a few more TMs from the casino and the mall later on. Now it's finally time to try out fighting Maylene. For Meditite, I did use the usual tactics of Intimidate and Flash. At least this time they don't have a non-missing move. Then I just made sure to switch between Teresa and Gandhi because of their stats and healing capabilities. That was a hilarious phrase to say, by the way. Ludicolo is up next. This Ludicolo only has one move to hit RIP. So after my usual shenanigans, I switched between Gandhi and RIP, at least until they fainted them. Then it was between Gandhi and Teresa again. Last up is the Machoke. I lowered his attack, and while it may be futile, I tried to Flash again despite my lower HP and paralysis. But I, through a miracle, was able to get off all 6 flashes. That was amazing. Since I know this guy has already used Focus Energy and has the fighting type move Karate Chop, I decided to keep Gandhi in to spam moves to drain his Karate Chops so that I could then switch between Teresa and Gandhi. Dang, this is a fantastic duo. Thanks to all that, I was able to give him a choke fainted after a bit of patience, and this was done on my 3rd attempt. I am so happy that this was an easy match. I am a toad. Become one with the toad. Now on to the 5th gym. Intimidate, Flash, and Gandhi's great defense and synthesis easily take down the Gyarados. Floatzel's a little scary, so after using my usual big brain plays, I need to be strategic in which Pokemon to take out, making sure to have enough HP for Wake's Quagsire. Now that Floatzel's finally down, we can go after the aforementioned Pokemon. Because they have Yawn, I have to switch between Pokemon if I want to lower their accuracy. Once this is done, I use A's Captivate to lower the special attack. Here on now, I switch between I and RIP, fantastic names by the way, since RIP has the ability Levitate to bypass Quagsire's Earth moves, doing so until I won on my 3rd attempt. Now that we're getting to the home stretch of the game, that is the point of the game where we can obtain much better arsenal and moves to help us in this endeavor, I decided at this point to make a few adjustments to the team so that I'm better prepared for the Elite Four and Cynthia. I decided to keep both Teresa and RIP, but now I wanted to hatch Togepi, mainly since it learns the move Wish, which would be astoundingly helpful in this run. I also had Magikarp to the team. Magikarp will be replacing the Luxrays for use of Intimidation. Gyarados has better stats, is more capable of handling Bertha, and has a marginally better move pool than Luxray. Moreover, I go and catch a Scorupia to help me out with Lucian, since Psychic type moves can't hit Dark type Pokemon. The final Pokemon will be caught later. But just to keep you up to date, the final team that I'll be using for this game will consist of Gyarados, Drapion, Togekiss, Blissey, Dusclops, and a mystery Pokemon. And while we're at it, give me like 100 or so in-game hours to train these Pokemon on Iron Island. Boop! Okay, I'm back from training and here's my official team -1. Ironically enough, my entire team was infected with the Pokerus virus, meaning all my EVs are doubled. It's so weird that I get Pokerus more often than I find shiny Pokemon. I mean, I haven't seen a shiny in a stinking year! After all this, we are finally ready to fight Byron. I spent a little time flashing him. Ew. Then switch between Teresa and RIP since Teresa has good special defense, and RIP can now utilize their newfound ability Pressure. I also take advantage of Togekiss' Wish since it's such a good move. Magneton is down, and up next is Bastiodon. Since the dude literally only has one attacking move, that is Stonage, RIP can basically one-shot them. At least in the standard of this challenge. Once they start using Struggle, I like to use my higher defense Pokemon like Tank Guy. Look up Tank Guy if you want to know why I chose his name. They're better at withstanding the physical attacks than others. Last up is Steelix. works. Not much is different from countering this dude. Just keep at it and they'll faint. This was done on my first attempt. 1, 2, skip a few. Oh hi Candace. Honestly, Candace was the gym leader I was most afraid of due to her use of hail, but my team is pretty set up now, so I'm not as scared. The first Pokemon, Sneasel, has Aerial Ace and Feint Attack, both moves that can't miss, but as long as I'm using my defense dudes, they'll be taken down. Piloswine has Hail, which is why Tank Guy has Rain Dance. Also, knowing how AI works, I know I can go between Gyarados and Drapion to avoid Stone Edge and Earthquake respectively. Since Piloswine will want to use the super effective on my Pokemon, it'll be amused once the better Pokemon's up, doing all this with the added bonus of Intimidate lowering their attack stat. Then Tank Guy and RIP were out once again to lower their PP and Hail. For Frostlass, I go for a Drapion since it's resistant to everything they got except for Blizzard. Plus I can flash them. Togesis's Wish was also very useful in fainting them. Last up is our 44th president. It was at this point that I forgot that I used up all my Rain Dances with Piloswine, and should have at least had one to counter their ability. Now I'll have to deal with the permanent chipping damage. I kinda wanted to restart, but I have faith in my team. But before there's more hope, there's some bad news. My flashing Pokemon have low HP at this moment. I was able to get a couple on them, but not nearly enough. Moreover, I'm running out of wishes on Togekiss. I lost a few Pokemon, and it became clear that switching between RIP and another Pokemon wasn't going to work this time, since RIP was taking some good damage. So I ended up just using Blizzy. Thankfully, they have minimized to compensate for the evasiveness, plus Light Screen and Defense Curl to counter their moves. Because of Blizzy's epicness, we won the match on our first attempt. I'm blue, I've been deed, I've been died, I've been deed, I've been died, I've been deed, I've been died. Along the way to saving the world, I had some issues with the combo Mean Look and Taunt by this random grunt. Mean Look makes me stay in battle, and Taunt forces my Pokemon to struggle since I have no attacking moves. The dude was even tougher than Cyrus himself. Speaking of, I relatively quickly defeated Cyrus, and here we can find our 6th and final Pokemon. How many of you guys figured it out, by the way? Honestly, other than being my previous challenge Pokemon of mine, the dude has the ability Pressure and somewhat useful moves to help me out in this challenge. So I chucked my Master Ball at him and named him T the Giratina. Other than this, we can do some squats at the 8th gym. Psycho reference! With Jolteon using Gandhi for just one more battle, I made use of its ground typing to throw a few flashes on them. And now that I have 2 Pokemon with the ability Pressure, I can now half the amount of time during this battle. Because I don't have a great counter to special attackers, I just have to wait it out until I painted them. Similar to the difficulty of requiring special defense EVs, it's kinda hard in this game to obtain any good status moves to lower the opponent's special attack. Since Luxray is primarily a physical attacker, I can utilize Gyarados' ability, then back to my Pressure Stallers. Thankfully I realized that I don't actually have to worry about statuses like Burn and Poison anymore due to Rest, which will both eliminate the status and heal the Pokemon, so you can bet I'll be putting that sucker on most of my Pokemon. And lastly is Electivire. Despite the weakness to electric moves, I used Togekiss' Charm to severely lower his physical attack. Because of that, beating Volkner is now in the bag. While navigating Victory Road, I wasn't looking forward to fighting Elihu again. Throughout the challenge, I had multiple run-ins on them, and they were terribly aggravating, but because I was prepared, he wasn't all that difficult. Nonetheless, I defeated him for the last time, and stocked my inventory with items, including PP healers and TMs that I feel I might be using for the battles ahead. Alright, I believe we're finally ready to conquer this challenge. For Yamega, I initially went for Flash, but they immediately decided to go for U-turn. Guess I'll see you later. MLK is good against Heracross because of Charm, decreasing their attack by 2 stages. Once I weakened him enough, I went for my Pressure Wall. Vespiqun's ability of Pressure is scary, so instead of using moves, I just switched with these two since most of their attacks aren't going to do much damage on them. All I gotta say is I'm glad I took the time to get a few TMs for Rest. They went down and next is Drapion. I used Charm, and since they have the potential to poison my Pokemon, Blissey with their ability and Drapion are best to combat this. Then Drapion and Giratina during his struggles. I used the usual tactic for Caesar, plus I made sure to prep Gyarados for Wish with the final Pokemon. Yanmega is now up. You do have to address their double team, but after some stat nerfs and some switching made it easy to leave them in the dust. Once defeating Aaron, I utilized the strategy I figured out literally just prior to taking on the Elite Four. Normally PP is a rather large issue here in the Poke League. PP. I mean, you don't get to use the Poke Center here. I did of course obtain as many PP healers as I could muster, but another strategy is to first replace a move that has 0 PP, like Flash, with a less than useful move like Substitute. Then reteach Flash to the same Pokemon, and boom, your PP is completely healed. Now to take on my mortal nemesis, Bertha. Hate your guts, Bertha. Hate your guts too, CPC. For Whiscash, because they have Sandstorm, I would alternate with Rain Dance to reduce damage. Other than that, they are taken care of. I put Golem to sleep so I can spam Charms. Because this dude could burn me with Fire Punch, I made sure to bring out Pokemon have Rest so as to heal the burn if it lands. When Rhyperior was brought out, I totally forgot to lower their accuracy with Flash, so I was taking some good damage there. Gratefully, most of my Pokemon have access to healing moves. Other than that, he was no different from any other Pokemon. Once Hippopotamon's up, I immediately used my final Rain Dance. Their ability Sandstream only brings up sand Sandstorm upon switching, so a single Rain Dance would eradicate this issue. Not much else until I fainted them. Then Glasscore replaced them. Just like before, I can't lower their physical stat with Intimidate due to their ability, but at least I have Flash to help me out, especially since I have Fire Fang. I then just made sure to switch between my defensive Pokemon that have Rest, and there we go. 2 down, 3 to go. Flint is my next opponent, and I'm honestly really worried about Sunny Day and the potential to get burnt. To combat this, I made sure to teach Rain Dance to Drapion, so now I have 2 Pokemon for the weather conditions. Starting out, we have Houndoom to deal with. We quickly went back and forth with him using Sunny Day and me using Flash and subsequently Rain Dance. Thereafter, once all the flashes were used and the dude ran out of Sunny Day, I used Teresa and RIP for the win. Teresa can heal upon switching, and Dusclops is just good all around, though I gotta be careful for the Sludge Bomb. Flareon's next, and because they have Will-O-Wisp, I used Blissey's flashes and switched when inevitably burnt. Other than that, the same 2 Pokemon were used to outlive them since the attacks they have left, like Quick Attack, aren't scary to these 2. Infernape's attack stat is scary, so I made sure to use Flash with Drapion since they have good defense, and finished them off with 3 charms from Togekiss. They quickly fainted thereafter. Magmortar is our next opponent, and unfortunately they are special attacker, and a good one at that. Blissey does have Light Screen, but that's not a very great move. I get a few flashes in, then just made sure to use my special walls to tank their attacks. Eventually they too fell by their own hands. Lastly, for Rapidash, Gyarados is the perfect weapon. Their Bounce and Solar Beam aren't of any consequence. I can take care of their Sunny Day with Rain Dance, and I can lower their attack for their Flare Blitz. Because of this, they're not much of an issue. Now is our final Elite Four member. Mr. Mime is of little concern. They really only have Psychic and Thunderbolt as attacking moves, and a special wall of Blissey can easily take him out. Blade was doing more damage than expected on RIP, so I made sure to lower their attack stat just in case. It was just then using my defensive walls. SP was terribly easy to take care of since none of their moves have any scary residual effects. As a note, I like to lower my enemy's attack stat even if they're a special attacker. This is so that I can minimize damage from the struggle. Bronzong is brought out, and I immediately use Roar once they use Calm Mind. The overuse of Calm Mind can easily sweep my team, and I'd rather make future CBC deal with that. Once again, Blissey and Giratina can easily take care of the Alakazam, and it is now the future, and CBC has to deal with the Bronzong's Calm Mind now. Initially, I made sure to put them to sleep to lower their physical stat since they have Earthquake. At least that won't be much of an issue. Then making sure that the dude can't feed my Pokemon with a crit via healing moves. I defeated them much smoother than expected. What I think happened was that they didn't use up all 6 of their Calm Minds, because the dude didn't do as much damage as I thought he should have done. Of course, after the battle, I made sure to heal up all my Pokemon, but not just that. I spent like the next half an hour trying to think of the best strategies to beat Cynthia. Seriously guys, I was super nervous at this point. After deliberating for as long as I did, I made sure to give the right moves to everybody. More specifically, I gave Blissey Skill Swap for an unexpected reason. I'll explain soon. And I also gave everybody a Citrus Berry. I ain't taking any chances. Okay Cynthia, I'm ready to not fight you. I'll take note that I did lose the first attempts because Ludicolo and Garchomp are uber strong. But here's how it went. Our first obstacle is Spiritomb, who has the ability Pressure. Initially I wasn't going to worry about it, but I really didn't want to take any chances. This is exactly the reason why I gave Teresa Skill Swap. This way I can switch my ability with theirs, semi-permanently ridding their pressure. This is great. Now all I have to do is flash them and then switch between Teresa and Fireworks. When Blissey is out, Spiritomb will want to use Psychic, but if I switch into Drapion, it'll become immune. Then they'll want to use Shadow Ball on Drapion, and the same will go for Blissey. Doing so completely eliminates any damage. I did the conventional Flash and Intimidate on Garchomp. Like I mentioned earlier, the dude's strong, so I gotta be careful of fainting from them. Ludicolo is another tough one. I decided to use MLK to use Charm whenever I didn't have to heal. This seems to be a faster approach than using Gyarados, and I needed the fastest approach possible for a dude like this. More than just a physical attacker though, he's also a special attacker with moves like Aura Sphere and Shadow Ball. But with those 2 moves, I can again take advantage of the AI's decision making by going into Giratina when they want to use Aura Sphere, and to Blissey when they want to use Shadow Ball. Melodic is thereafter. I flashed them, then to take care of their eventual struggles, I did my switcheroo with Tank Guy and RIP. I chose Tank Guy since most of Melodic's moves like Surf and Ice Beam aren't going to do much damage on them. Non-MLK is another difficult one due to their ability and their being a special attacker. This time I decided to put my faith in the Pokemon's defenses to withstand their onslaught of attacks. I mean, I could use Flash, but they also have 2 moves I can't miss, Aura Sphere and Shockwave. It does turn out that T did a great job with Duress and Protect in massively defeating Togekiss. Roserade is the absolute last Pokemon. Since I knew of their capability of poisoning my Pokemon, I knew I would go for Teresa with Flashes, and then Fireworks again since they're both not very susceptible to poisonings. By the way, if you're wondering why the name Fireworks, I told my mother to give them a name, and Fireworks came to mind. I don't know why. Hereafter, I lowered their physical attack, and I even made sure to have every one of my Pokemon as part of the final victory. Once Roserade finally fell, me and my entire team were put into the Hall of Fame. Along with Todd, Bellsmart, Uhura, MC Hammer, Groot, Shiitake, Jock, Joseph, Kitty Cow, Ekans, Coughing, Priceless, Purpose, Doug and Doug, Good Boy, Norman, Ivy Birds, Explosion Quad, HC Arceus, Aaron, Breath, Fruit, Foot, and T the Giratina. with an in-game count of 388 hours and 26 minutes. And there you have it. Is it possible to best an entire Pokemon game as a full pacifist? Yep. To commemorate this historic event, so as to not have 20 Pokemon on my banner, I'll be adding a Shinx onto my YouTube's banner as a representative of all the Pokemon in this pacifist challenge. Because of Shinx, this challenge was possible. Now before I go, I'd like to end with a quote. I am not only a pacifist, but a militant pacifist. Nothing will end war unless the people themselves refuse to go to war. Albert Einstein. And that's it. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please let me know. If you like my content, please subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to click on that bell looking thing if you don't want to miss anything. Lastly, please let me know if you have any prayers and I will pray for you. And with that I say, bye.